What is something you want to brag about, but never get the chance because it never comes up in conversation? I bowled a perfect 300 a few years ago, actually threw over 24 strikes in a row in a 3-game series, but only the middle game was perfect. That was 7 years ago now, and I haven't bowled since, going out on a high note. Now you gotta go back and play 3 perfect games. Miss me with that weak crap. I can say the alphabet backwards and forwards with similar ease. I can also pick up from any point, backwards and forwards, and continue on without having to think or recite parts of it to find my place. TBH, I feel like that's more impressive than most people think. If someone gave me a random letter I would have to do the whole ABCs. Basically I'm slow mayo. I once saw a guy lying on a road trying to die. I went in front of him waving at cars not to hit him. Then I convinced him to go out of the street and talk. Stayed with him a couple of hours. I don't talk about this incident ever. Nothing to brag about. We all have our ups and downs. Sometimes all we need is someone to talk. Guy is still alive 10 years later. STH, like this happened to my family but differently. A homeless guy was shouting to us with milk in his hand, drive me over, and we were shocked because he went in front of us while my dad was driving, but we ended up going on because it was weird not only for us, and I still feel bad for him tough since. That guy should have had a really rough time. IDK if he still lives. I was friends with a younger Hispanic guy who was trying to get into a college for the arts and his dad refused to help him. He needed scholarships and one of the ones he wanted was a national essay contest on the importance of Hispanic culture in the United States. He paid me $50 to write it for him and it won. The article I wrote was published in a magazine that had a famous actor on the cover. I'm white and I wrote it while I was drunk. Although that does tend to get the creative juices flowing. And yes, he did go to college where he wanted. I know it's a bit unethical, but that aside, I've never won anything like that for myself, so I'm still kind of proud of it. GG Mayo achievement unlocked. Drunken Shakespeare. I'm a pretty quiet introverted guy. I was just a giant nerd growing up with few no friends, so I never really thought of myself as socially skilled. But I fairly recently started dating casually for fun, and almost all the women I've been out with have at some point mentioned how charming I am. Really surprised me, honestly. I've also been a lot more successful at the whole thing than expected. I used to work on cruise ships in my mid-20s. I've been to almost every continent, minus Antarctica. When a place I've been to comes up in conversation and I say I've been there, I've been told it sounds like I'm a pretentious butthole, so I try not to say anything anymore. But I got paid really well to sing and to travel in some of the best years of my life. I work with special needs students on the daily, and I get many compliments by parents saying how much I've helped their child. The best feeling I've ever had. Good for you, man. Honestly, people like you are some of the most underappreciated people on this planet. You deserve the compliments. My grandma. They finally took her driver's license off her at age 94. Thank frick for that. She was a complete speed racer who put the fear of God into anyone traveling with her. When one of her friends, who bicycles everywhere, was pushed over and robbed by a gang of youth, Grandma also got herself a bike. She then got a basket for her bike and a crowbar. She then proceeded to cycle about town in the hope she would be mugged so she could beat them up with her crowbar. She was never challenged, thank goodness. Who knows how that would have ended? GBH in prison for Grandma probably. I would like to meet your grandma. I used to be at the world top of what was then called Robber Blast Planet. It now has a different name, but it's connected to Movistar Planet. I had the highest level and got most of my XP out of building prefabs people could use in their worlds. Those were the times, around first half of 2016 BTW if anyone was wondering. I am really good at tetherball. I never get to play anymore as I am an adult and have not seen one set up since elementary school. So I guess I was really good. Break into a local elementary school. I was both prom king and valedictorian in high school, but mentioning either makes me egotistical in two different ways. Imagine mentioning both. Also, I've grown past high school like everyone else, so mentioning any form of high school achievement is pretty lame. Don't fret, I'm a former Olympian and there's zero ways of working that into a conversation without looking like an butthole, so I never bring it up. At least you didn't destroy your body in the process. Back when WWE was WWF, my uncle's dog used to stand in for the British Bulldogs when he came to UK events, as the usual dog would have had to be quarantined. I went from being one of the retarded kids in class who would never accomplish anything and would be lucky if he passed a single GCSE to getting a first-class STEM degree. It's not much to most people, but I am really proud of myself. I found wild parsnip growing in a public walkway, reported it to the city, and then they called me back to let me know I was right and it will be removed. Fairly pleased about that. I know no one that cares about invasives. I grew up in a home where I never went hungry to bed, nor was cold on the outside, but was cold on the inside due to lack of emotional presence of my parents. My family never had many friends, so I never had many either. I'm 25, and now finally, after university etc., had the time to address myself. The few friends I had are living in the same heck, yet they don't want to get out. I discarded them. Not great, but sacrificing them is the lesser of the evil of throwing away my life. It's only been about 6 months of active work, daily battles, to get rid of social anxiety, working on being a man, learning to live. I found a wonderful, female, friend the same time ago who I now semi-jokingly refer to as my sister, who was the first person to ever really give a crap about me. It's a real struggle, but I can actually hold a decent conversation now, and can go everywhere without fear. I'm currently trying to learn how to flirt, and mustering up the courage to ask women out at the bar. I'm kinda proud of myself. And a big thank you to everyone who creates content about social topics on YouTube. You're awesome. I mean, quite a few random people have came up and asked me, but no one at work is aware that a video of mine went viral of me saving a drowning dog at an abandoned water park. I always wonder if they would respect me more after knowing, since no one really talks to me. I saw that video. You're a true hero. Some kid was bullying me back in middle school, and one day I got sick of his crap and we got into a pretty heated fist fight. He technically won because he landed more punches than me, but I managed to break that sucker's nose with a mean headbutt. We were both suspended, and after our suspension was over, he never picked on me again. I always want to brag to my friends about how I scared my bully into leaving me alone by breaking his nose. Truth is, he probably just didn't want to get suspended again, but it makes me feel better to look at it the other way. The winner is the one who walks away, not crawls away. If you broke his nose and he left you alone, it sounds like you whooped him. I was eating some magic mushrooms just after sundown when I saw a kid get hit by a car. The driver sped across the tracks to get away to the other side of an oncoming train. My friends went to check on the kid and I ran to beat the train. I just made it. I caught up to the car on the other side at a stoplight and grabbed the driver. I'll never forget the oh crap look on his face. He agreed to come back to the scene. The kid was okay. The driver went to jail. Then the mushrooms kicked in. I've never told anyone that story. It just never came up. Thanks for asking. When I was 10 and in elementary school, I had to build a project by myself and execute it if the teacher and the other student deemed it worth it. After seeing the first homeless person in my town, I decided to organize a charity event and a collect for a homeless shelter near my town. Unfortunately, my teacher didn't let me do it. So I said frick it and still did it. I ended up collecting over 20 bags full of clothes, toothbrushes and other necessities. I also spent the whole day volunteering in the shelter. 2 weeks later, I received a call from the shelter. One of their customers wanted to speak to me. He told me that the clothes my school collected changed his life. He was able to get a job and rebuild himself. That experience changed my whole life. I got 1 million streams on a song on Spotify. Finally, I've found the perfect thread. I learned a 13-minute piece in 3 days written for a soloist on piano and bassoon at the same time. Following this, I performed it at the school talent show. Yes, you read that right. It means exactly what you think it does. I have a pretty extensive knowledge histories of ancient Greek and the Roman Empire. No one really likes talking about it anymore. I took a course on mythology for a humanities credit. Hands down the best, most engaging, and all around interesting course I've ever taken. It was a late night midweek time slot too, and I went to every class. In high school, my mom was driving a cousin and I to fast food. On our way there, a car ahead of us started swerving and crashed into a gate. Hard. My mom was always super nosy and decided to literally stop in the middle of the road just to get a glance at what was going on. Annoyed, I stepped out of our car and walked towards the crashed car. Guy was bleeding everywhere and his eyes kept rolling to the top of his head. My cousin and I pulled him out of the car and just then the car caught fire, starting with the hood before eventually spreading everywhere else. I saved 2 boys' lives when I was like 13 from drowning. It's weird cause apparently there is a law here that if you try to save someone's life and they die, you are responsible for their death and the family can sue you or something. So everyone is too scared to do anything but call ambulance police. I saved someone's life from drowning. 2. He was having a seizure in the pool. This was when I was 11 or 12. As someone that suffers from severe paranoia anxiety, being able to do the smallest things without someone's help always feels like a reason to brag. Brag away. Hugs to you. Once more, I pooped out of the top of a tree once, wiped my butt on one of my socks, left the sock in the tree, then climbed down using the non-poopy branches, got on my bike and rode home. I am really good at googling random stuffs. When something went wrong, people just come to me and asking me to give them advices on how to fix them. I would just start googling them and tell them to try something that's on my search results. They never know that I'm always googling for answers. They always assume that I'm good at fixing random stuffs like broken zippers, guitar fret buzzes, etc. Also, I improved my English skills more than the schools had ever taught me via Reddit. When I was younger, my schoolmates always assumed that I must studied very hard in English. Nah, my grammar totally sucked, but I am willing to have conversations in English. That's what I think about what's more important when it comes to acquiring a new language. Ah yes, the art of Google Foo. Sounds like you are quite the master. I bought each of my own cars, worked since I was old enough to do so legally, never received child support, and never asked for a handout, even during homelessness before I had my kid. If I could not earn food, I let myself starve. I don't have parents, dad is lost, mom is dead, I pay off any debt I incur myself and have no credit cards, and nobody takes care of my child for me. I sacrifice sleep to work, and I spend the rest of my day raising my child. I have never had a partner who helped me out financially. Everything I have, I got by myself, except my life from my mother until I became an adult. I do receive food stamps, but I'm employed and as a taxpayer I pay my own part of the deduction. I legitimately don't owe anybody anything, and I feel like that's rare for a woman. You sound like a great human being. I hope you get enough sleep though, and have time to take care of yourself too. I'm a Starbucks manager. One of my baristas told me they wanted to kill themselves. We will call him C. Right when I started taking care of my administrative tasks for my store, I stopped everything and gave C my full attention. A few nights before I was reading what not to say to someone who wants to kill themselves, so I was extremely cautious with everything I responded with and talked about. I asked C what he wanted to do, and he said call his parents. So I'll let him. His dad told him he was going to drive to come and take care of him for a little bit and take him home to watch over him while he went through some therapy. His dad lived in Northern California. We were in Los Angeles. So I stayed with C for 10.5 hours until his dad came to take care of him. We played video games, talked about his favorite anime and television shows. I never finished any of my work that day, and my boss let me have an extra admin day and paid me for the time I spent with C, which is a lot of paid overtime. Every minute with my barista was meaningful. I remember crying with him and doing everything I could to lift his spirits. We got lunch and dinner, had some amazing ice cream. We had some of the most deep conversations I've ever had. Then C's dad came, and he left. When C came back to work a month or so later, his parents came to meet me. They didn't speak a lot of English, but they wanted to tell me thank you, so they bought me some cookies and a card. When they came to say hi, his mom looked me in the eyes and started crying. We stood there for a good amount of time just staring at each other, and then she said the most meaningful thank you I am ever going to hear in my life. I will never forget it. She gave me the warmest hug, and his dad shook my hand for a good minute. I will never forget those days. I graduated from college, magma CM Lord, this May with 2 degrees, an undergraduate certificate, did 2 internships, one in my congressperson's district office, one at a highly regarded local non-profit, a service project, an honors thesis, all while working and going through the hardest 4 years of my life between family members being sick and almost dying, an abusive relationship, and the worst bouts of depression. Dang. And I achieved nothing today. Absolutely nothing. No. Wait. I finished Stranger Things today. They should have stopped after the first season. Well, not just because it doesn't come up in conversation, but also because it makes me sound like an buff, so I would never say it out loud. I feel like I may be the only scientist, female or otherwise, who actually doesn't have imposter syndrome. I have spent 2 years training myself to day trade stocks. I have blew up probably 100 fake money accounts. I don't like talking about it because I don't want people to think it's glamorous. There are days you lose money and walk away feeling like an idiot. Friday made my 3rd day with real money. I have made about 2% each day. I had a 33 on my ACT score and maintained a 4.0 GPA throughout 8 semesters of college. 2 things that mean absolutely nothing now in the professional world and make me sound like an butthole if I ever brought it up with friends. Makes me wonder if killing myself over my grades for so many years was really worth it. If you did well in college, put that crap on your resume. Summa CM Lord belongs right after your degree listing. For reals. I'm telling you as a fellow Lord there. So I was the new kid in 7th grade and on like my 2nd week in math. We had triangle desks that were put in groups of 4, and I couldn't stand the people at my table. I wouldn't talk to them. Anyway, we had an assignment where you got this problem and you had all of class to figure it out, and then next day if class you would go up and solve it. I had finished it fairly early and just kinda watched the people at my table struggle. I eventually helped them, and when it was our turn to go up they basically talked while I wrote on the board. They said something wrong and I fixed it anyway. Math teacher called me one of the smartest kids in class in front of everybody. One of my proudest moments. Also, I go to school with idiots who don't try, so I'm probably just average smart. I'm 19 years old and I run a business selling items in an online video game. I've worked a regular job for the past 4 summers and I've made more money from my Xbox than all 4 of those jobs combined. I once caught a legendary Pokemon with a regular Pokeball on the first turn. I also encountered 2 shiny Pokemon in one day. Due to my job and my like for maps, I have insane area knowledge where I can visual every single street in a couple cities and know general layout of a ton more. Don't have photogenic memory, just like studying Google Snap Maps. So I used to work in produce stocking shelves, and at least 5 or 6 apples, or limes, oranges etc. would roll off the shelf every day. I got so used to it that my reflexes are ridiculous now. I caught 3 falling limes without looking, and routinely will catch random things at home dropped by both my husband and myself before they hit the ground. Wife and I survive without financial help from parents. We've been like this since I was 22. I'm 31 now. Everyone else around me lives off their parents' or their husband's money, so it's a big deal to us to be super hardcore frugal. Everyone else gets to go out to eat, go on fancy vacations, buy all the video games and clothes they like. They even get houses they would never afford on their own. We don't. We had a hobby for 3 years and that was nice. Hope wife can get a job soon again so we can have a hobby once more. I'm broke but making the best of it. At least I learned to be hardcore disciplined from it. I just wish I weren't alone in being financially abandoned. It's not being able to relate to others that sucks. I hit rock bottom becoming suicidal. It took every fiber of my being, but I made it through, and in the process of crawling out of that dark place, I completely eliminated toxic people from my life. I met some of the most amazing people I've ever had the pleasure of coming across. I got my master's, and I was hired by a pretty great company. I still have pretty dark days, but nothing as bad as when I was ready to end my life. I developed a huge idea for a movie. It's a dense like 12-page paper on this movie trilogy I created that I think is really good. I'm really good at sucking dong. Like insanely good. I found this out before I realized I'm a lesbian. So I don't like sucking dong and I have no intention of ever doing it again, but I'm still oddly proud of my skills. This doesn't come up in conversation for obvious reasons, LMAO. Next month will be 5 years since I got a liver transplant and I've never had a single problem. My doctors say it's the most successful transplant they've ever seen. 22 a day, but 4 of my Marines are alive today because of me. Didn't do anything special, just noticed something was wrong and showed them that somebody cared about them. Never got an award, we kept it to ourselves and I don't talk about it much, but that 4 veterans who lived, and it's the thing I'm most proud of after my service. Guys, one time I got around 640 shares on a post I made on Google+. It did actually come up once, but that was on G+, so I don't think it really counts. Oh yeah, I also got almost 40 years on a Miiverse post. So I really want to brag about how talented I am. I train tennis and I'm about to get to the ITF, International Tennis Federation. I can play a lot of instruments. My favs are guitar, bass, drums, piano, but I can play many others as well. I can draw really good. My dad is a very creative guy, so I guess I got my creativity and drawing skills from him. I could go on, but my point is that I can never brag about this since people would find it conceited and I don't wanna sound arrogant or whatever. Yet, as someone who is the best in table tennis of my school and played badminton at the school club before, I can say that getting to ITF is pretty impressive. Keep going, M8. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.